The idea of transformation really is more awareness of more of yourself, more of who and what you actually are already. Because you're not really so much becoming something as you are remembering what you already are, awakening to what you already were created to be. So this entire process of transformation, this entire process of acceleration is all about gaining more and more aptitude, more and more awareness, more and more ability to perceive more of the being you are already created to be. And in that process, thus then being more capable of actually applying more of your awareness, more of your energy, more of your consciousness to your physical reality experience in such a manner so as to allow your physical reality to reflect back to you those changes going on within you in a positive and constructive and expansive and integrative way. Now, we wish to clarify a few ideas that we have perceived exist within many of the people on your planet with regard to these ideas, with regard to these processes, with regard to, most specifically, the definitions that go with these processes. We have heard many of your people talk about the idea of wanting to learn how to shift, wanting to learn how to change. And again, I remind you, it isn't really about learning how to shift, learning how to change. It is becoming more aware of the fact that you are already shifting and you're already changing. The idea, we have also heard from many of you, is that you want to let go of doubt and you want to learn to trust more and more and more in your true self. And again, I remind you, it isn't about learning how to trust. It is about learning what to trust in. Because the idea is that shifting, changing, trusting are all automatic functions of your existence. You cannot help but shift. You cannot help but change. You cannot help but trust. Oh, but Bashar, I have doubts. Yes, I know. But doubt is not a lack of trust. Doubt is a 100% trust in a definition that is out of alignment with your truth. There's a difference. You are never, ever, 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 not for a moment, not trusting something to be true. The question, therefore, is not, how do I learn to trust? The question is, how do I allow myself to trust what I want to trust in, instead of trusting what I don't prefer? That's the issue. You don't have to learn how to trust. You don't have to learn how to change. You don't have to learn how to shift. You do it automatically. It's built into you as a mechanism of creation because you are co-creators with all that is. So let go of the idea that this has to be difficult, that you have to learn something difficult, that you have to learn to do something you don't know how to do. You're already doing these things. You do them as absolutely automatically, so automatically, you don't even know you're doing them. That's the issue. So we remind you now that you know how to do all this changing and shifting and trusting. You do it all the time. What we will now work together with you on is examining the idea of having more conscious awareness of the fact that you're already shifting, and thus then you can apply your focus to shift in the way you prefer. You can apply your focus to change in the way you prefer. You can apply your focus to trust what you wish to trust in, what you prefer to trust in. But now that you know you don't have to learn to change, learn to shift, and learn to trust, it lightens up the load. You don't have so much to do. It's all on automatic, and all you have to do is direct, slightly and subtly and most profoundly direct the course of those changes and shifts and trusts. And how do you do that? Thank you, I'll tell you. The idea, again, is to become more aware, much, much more aware of the definitions in your life so that you are not hampering yourself, so that you are not impeding yourself with a definition in your consciousness that doesn't work for you. Many times on your planet, being brought up with certain ideas, certain belief systems in society, and from your parents, you are spoon-fed, along with your baby food, a diet of ideas without even knowing it. Your parents telepathically, no fault of their own, because this is what they learned from their parents and their societies, will automatically spoon-feed you telepathically with certain ideas they hold to be true. The idea thus then is that when you are a child, you don't really know that you are on a double diet of food and ideas. But when you grow up and ostensibly, supposedly, become adults, the idea thus then is that when you are now expected to be on your own, you suddenly start regurgitating all these ideas. You suddenly discover all the ideas you were spoon-fed as a child and now have to deal with, and now have to discover that some of them don't go down lightly because they don't belong to you. They're not digestible by you. They are ideas that may or may not have worked for your parents or other members of your society, but by being generally spoon-fed this entire array of ideas, you will now be expected, in a sense, as an adult, to figure out which one of these ideas works and which you wish to continue to incorporate in your being, and what ideas do not work for you and which you are willing to let go of. But first you have to find out what they are, because these ideas were spoon-fed to you at a level and at an age where they are primarily unconscious within you. Thus then, that's why you suddenly discover, as you set out on your lives, that you may run into what you call impediments or obstacles. But these are really just opportunities to discover ideas that exist within your unconscious mind and bring them into conscious realization, so that you can, in fact, deal with them and decide whether you prefer to keep them. And if you do, thus then allow yourself to integrate them consciously within your mind. And if you decide not to keep them, to figure out how to let them go and replace them with ideas that you prefer to define yourself as a person you prefer to be. For example, we have used this many times. We will use it now just as an illustration of what we are talking about. Again, some of these ideas, some of these definitions are so inherently in your unconscious mind, you may automatically assume that there is no other way to define certain things in life. And therein becomes the sticking point, because it seems natural and automatic to define things in a certain way, when in fact absolutely nothing in physical reality has an automatic definition. Everything in physical reality is fundamentally neutral and has absolutely no built-in meaning whatsoever. The greatest gift you have been given by creation, and I know this will sound funny to your ears, is that life is meaningless. What that means is you decide what things mean, and the meaning you give to something, no matter what the situation is what absolutely and utterly determines the effect that that situation has in your life, because that situation does not come with meaning built in automatically, although it may seem sometimes to be so, because you're so automatically and unconsciously supplying a meaning to a circumstance, to a situation, that you think it just automatically must mean this, when in fact you have supplied the meaning unconsciously and thus gotten a reflection back of the fact that you have supplied that meaning, and the reflection comes bouncing back so fast that you think it's actually inherent in the situation, when in fact it's nothing but a reflection back to you. So the idea is, again, by illustration, for example, the term in your reality, habit, pattern. Many of you, when you speak to us, go, well, I'm having difficulty changing this in my life because, well, it's a habit. All right. Now define a habit. A habit is something I have difficulty changing. No. Define a habit. Our definition is, a habit is something you do that you don't know you're doing. But when you know you're doing it, it's not a habit anymore, it's a choice. The idea is similar to your forest and the tree analogy. When you see the individual trees, you are in the forest. But the only way for you to actually see the whole forest is to actually be outside the forest. The only way you can see the whole forest is to no longer be in it. Thus then, a habit, being something that you don't know you're doing, once you know you're doing it, you don't have it anymore. You're outside the habit, you're beyond the habit. You've actually let go of the habit in order to consciously recognize you had it. But because of the definitions that exist in your society that say, oh, all right, now you recognize you have a habit. Now what kind of a process do I have to go through to get rid of it, to change it? Well, you see, from our point of view, in our definition, recognizing that a habit is something you do you don't know you're doing, once you know you're doing it, if you understand that the only way to know you had the habit is to already have let it go, to be outside of it, to no longer have it, then the process is done. In other words, the recognition that you had the habit is the end of the process, not the beginning. Yeah. But the idea is that if you then keep continuing to do things you say you don't prefer to do, what does that tell you? Well, as we said, it's a choice. So now the question would be, why would I choose to keep doing something that I say I don't prefer to do? Very good question. Let me explain the idea once again of the mechanism of motivation. Because I will tell you this, you only have one mechanism of motivation for everything that you do. Yes, only one, no exceptions, no, not even you. The idea is that always, unerringly, and automatically, and immediately, and I mean immediately, instantaneously, you will always choose something in the direction that you define as positive for you. You will always move away from something you define as negative for you. And therein, as you say in your language, lies the rub. What you define as positive, what you define as negative. But you say, Bashar, I am defining this as negative, so why do I keep choosing it? Aha, says Bashar, look at the motivational mechanism and you will find out that if you keep choosing something that you intellectually know is not what you prefer, the only reason you would keep choosing it is that because you are unconsciously defining that thing as more positive than the alternative. Find out what the alternative is and why you would have attached a definition to it that actually makes the alternative you say is positive appear or feel more negative than the thing you say you don't prefer. For example, again, by illustration again, many people on your planet are raised with the idea of many contradictory belief systems. For example, issues that have to do with abundance and, in your world, money. You are raised with the idea that if you're going to be successful, you have to have a lot of money. At the same time, you are raised with the belief system that love of money is the root of all evil. How do you reconcile these two ideas? But the point is that these two ideas are now linked in your unconscious mind. So the idea is that if you find that being successful now rattles the cage of this belief and says, but if I'm successful, that means I'm going to be a bad person. And it's really much more important for me to never be a bad person than it is to have money. So I will do everything in my power to avoid having money. As long as those belief systems are linked together, that's how you will operate. The idea is to recognize, to identify, to define those beliefs and recognize you have them. So that in recognizing you have them, in identifying them, you can recognize that they make no sense to hold on to them. They don't belong to you. And by recognizing and identifying them, you can realize you have now let them go. You've disassociated. You've delinked those ideas. And you can now begin to behave differently with the recognition, well, of course I can be successful and not be a bad person. I don't have to believe that being successful means I have to be a bad person. So now that I have delinked those contradictory belief systems, those contradictory definitions, I can now replace it with a new idea of what it means to be abundant and successful. And I can now apply these ideas in my behavior and my thoughts, words, and deeds in life in a new way that will allow physical reality to reflect this to me. Herein lies another idea that many of you come across that you don't quite have a handle on yet, and that is the idea of the outside reality reflection not necessarily always changing to reflect what you think it should according to the change you think you made within yourself. How many of you have experienced that? Yes. Well, I've made these changes. Why isn't that changing? Why isn't that any different? How come I don't have that yet? Why can't I attract this to me? I've made the change within my belief. I know I have. Why am I not seeing the outer reality change? The answer, because you're waiting for the outer reality to change. The idea is really this. You must understand something very clearly. Physical reality doesn't really exist. It's an illusion. The experience of it is real, but the actual physical reality is nothing but a reflection in the same way you have a reflection in a glass mirror. If you notice that the reflection in the mirror is frowning, you don't go over to the mirror and try to force a smile on the reflection's face. The only way to get the reflection to smile is for you to smile first, then the reflection will have no choice really but to smile back. The idea thus then is that what many of you do is you go, well yes, all right, I'll smile, but only if I see the smile in the reflection. So what you've just done is made the reflection now conditional. And by doing that, you haven't actually smiled. You've put a condition on your happiness. I will not be happy till I see the reflection, till I'm guaranteed to see the reflection smile back. And I will just stand here and wait. And I will not smile until I know for a fact that the reflection will smile back to me. So why am I not seeing the reflection smile? I don't get it, I don't get it, I don't get it. All right. Remember this. The experience of physical reality includes the idea of what you call space-time. So you have the experience of time lags. It takes a little while in terms of a space-time experience for something to come into manifestation sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. Thus, then, it depends upon the reason why it's being created, other belief systems you may have within you that you haven't become aware of or dealt with or integrated yet, and many other factors. So the way you go about this without having to understand intellectually what all those factors are is just to realize that the idea is not about whether the outer reality changes or not to let you know you've changed. The idea is if you know you've changed, then you will respond differently to the outer reality, even if it still looks the same. That's your proof you've changed. That you're not reacting the same way to an outer reality, even if it looks the same as it did before. Now you're proving to creation that you've changed because you have a different response and you are getting a different effect out of the very same circumstance that you got a negative effect out of before. You're showing creation that everything serves double duty and you know it. You're proving to creation that you know you can extract a positive energy out of the very same circumstance that before gave you a negative experience. By responding differently to the very same situation, you are proving that you have really changed, and once you prove you've really changed, then the reflection can change. But many times you'll test yourself. And again, you will say, oh, I've really changed, I've really changed, I've really changed, but I'm waiting for that outer reality to change. And as long as you determine the degree to which you've changed by what you do or don't see in the outer reality, you have not changed. Make sense? All right. You see how you create these little cycles for yourself, these little, as you say, catch-22s for yourself. Allow us to clarify these ideas and clarify them for yourself. This is all part and parcel of the idea of acceleration and of handling the transformation in a clear and conscious way. Allowing yourself to know that you are shifting. And let's talk a little bit about the idea of shifting. Because you're shifting, well, really? You're shifting all the time. You're never really not shifting. Here's the clue. You've all talked about the idea, you've all heard about the idea to some degree of what you now recognize in your society as parallel realities. You even have movies about them now. You even have books about them now. You even have television shows about parallel realities now. It is finally leaked into your understanding to a degree where you're actually being able to use these concepts in your entertainment. So you all basically understand the concept, at least on some level, in some way, of parallel realities. Something that may or may not be similar to your own reality time track, may be different in a subtle way, may be different in a very profound way, but is going on alongside, in a sense, your reality at the very same time. All parallel realities coexist simultaneously. That means all lives coexist simultaneously, and what you call the past and what you call the future, in a sense, is just another parallel reality track going on simultaneously that for the purposes of convenience in a space-time reality, you choose to define as past, you choose to define as future. But that's just your definition. It doesn't mean that there actually is a future or a past. All realities coexist right here, right now, because there is only here and now. Look around. Anytime you wonder what time it is, it's always now. There is no then, there is no when. It's always now. Always will be. Always has been, so to speak. What you call, what you experience as different moments is actually the same one moment, the same one eternal moment from a different point of view. That's what you experience that you call different moments in the space-time linear framework illusion. But knowing that what you're actually doing is seeing exactly the same eternal infinite moment from a different point of view tells you that every single little change, every single little shift is nothing but a different point of view of the same existence, the same eternal now. And thus, you can realize that in order to experience movement at all, you actually must be shifting your perspective and shifting from parallel reality to parallel reality, moment to 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 moment. That's what the moments are, is shifting your perspective of that eternal moment that contains everything. So, in reality, you're already shifting through billions, literally billions of parallel realities every second in order to even have the illusion you call movement in physical reality. Because each and every parallel reality is by itself unmoving. It's like a still photo. It doesn't move. It's just a description of a position relative to other things. This is one whole parallel reality. This is another, and 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 another. Much like your frames of animation, much like your frames of film. The idea is that you're shifting already through billions of parallel realities a second, but you don't know it, because each parallel reality you are choosing to shift to is so similar to the last one you existed in that you don't notice that you are an entirely different universal parallel reality. Now, if you can allow yourselves to wrap your mind around the fact that at every moment you're actually shifting through billions of absolutely different, discrete, parallel realities, now you can take a step back and go, oh my goodness. The idea of how to know you're doing that is to create a greater degree of difference in the next parallel reality you shift to, so you'll recognize that you've already been shifting all the time. The way you notice that you're shifting is to create a greater degree of difference between the subsequent parallel realities. And the greater degree of difference you can create with your ability to redefine what your preferred reality will be, the greater shifting you will be aware of, the greater ability you will have to perceive the shifts that are going on automatically all the time in a seemingly smooth and continuous fashion. But that continuity is an illusion. So if you're willing to really truly start redefining your reality, the reality you prefer, by following your excitement, by acting on it, your true vibration, by being who you really know you are in a bold and applicable way in your experience of physical reality, the greater and greater and greater shifts you will be able to perceive in your reality, the bigger leaps you will take from one parallel reality to the next in terms of how you define them, and the greater the comparison difference will be between the two, and then you will know, really perceive, really experience that you are truly shifting in a superconductive and hyperconductive way. You are truly flowing through a slipstream of energy of your own consciousness and becoming more and more aware that you're already doing all the things you actually desire to do. It's just that now you need more ability to become more aware of that fact rather than learning anything new. Make sense? All right. So, We will let all of that sink in. Absorb it at your own rate. It is all in there. Just take it in at whatever rate your belief systems will allow you to, and I guarantee you that when you begin to truly, consciously, and intentionally apply what we have just talked about and come up with these realizations and allow them to click in your psychology, you will start to see time and space become far more plastic, far more malleable. Synchronicity will start to amplify and magnify, and you will find that you're able to allow time and space to become very, very slippery, so that magical things can happen very easily, very effortlessly, whereas heretofore it seemed to take too much effort. Let go of the idea that you need effort to learn to do new processes. You are already a flawless creation machine. You already automatically shift through billions of parallel realities every second. You are expanding faster than the speed of light. But the speed of light is just your illusionary barrier to the experience of space-time reality. But you yourself, your consciousness itself, expands more rapidly, way more rapidly, than the idea you call the speed of light, which compared to the idea of infinite consciousness is very, very slow. So, let all this begin to sink in at whatever rate, in whatever way you need to. If you wish to listen to the recording again a few times, it's up to you. If you think you've got it, that's fine. Just let it sink in and let it reveal itself to you at whatever rate your belief system is comfortable in becoming aware of these ideas, and use them as you wish. Use them as you desire. Use them as you prefer. They are tools that you can apply in your physical reality. These awarenesses are tools you can apply in your physical reality and get an effect. Remember, what you in your reality have now more recently called the law of attraction, what we in our reality call the third law, is what you put out is what you get back. It's as simple as that, but simply remember that what you're getting back is nothing but a reflection. You are the prime cause in your life. Nothing else controls you. Nothing else can. Nothing else has the power to. Only by your agreement can you be affected by anything anyone else offers you, be it positive or negative. Only by your agreement. Whether it be unconscious or conscious, only by your agreement can you co-experience anything similar to what another individual is choosing to experience. So it's completely in your hands, it's completely up to you. You are completely self-empowered beings. Therefore, all of this simply comes to you by way of information that works for us in our reality that we know can work for you in your reality, but it's up to you to decide whether or not you prefer to take it in and use it in that way. If you do not, it's up to you. Because we love you unconditionally and must allow you to decide what is true for you. Did we put conditions upon that, we would not love you unconditionally. One more definition many people in your society would benefit from looking up is the word unconditional. Because many times people on your planet will say, well, yes, I love you unconditionally except for this one condition. Thus, then, they do not understand the meaning of the word